So.
Thank you. Very nice for president. Thank you.
I love that poem, Jim. That's a great poem. So I know a lot of dead people. You think you know a lot of dead people. I got I had two best friends, and they both managed to die within a year of one another. My son died 2.5 years ago. My mother-in-law died about 5 years ago. You know, and then I found out that you were reading the poem about one of your ex-boyfriends. I found out my first husband, I found out he had been dead for 10 years when I found this out. He was crazy. He was absolutely as nutty as yours, but he was very focused. He was focused enough that he was a particle physicist, and he also was one of the inventors of the GPS system. That's how, but he was as crazy as, that guy, but he did.
GPS.
One of the people who, yeah. And I used to look him up, on the phone book every so often to see whether he was still around and hope that he didn't look me up, because I didn't want him to find me, because, he knocked me against a wall once and knocked me out. I was lying there and sort of like, he was giving me artificial respiration. And so you don't want people like that to know where you live, but, I'm glad Zava search didn't exist back. Anyway, that has nothing to do with this poem except for dead people. Oh, this is me and Marge Simon. It's a book called The Uber Cat.
Holy transition, Batman.
Dead people knocked on the wall. Mr. Beck's husband. Book. Bye.
Uber Cat and Dragon Owner Manual, which has nothing. This poem is not in it.
Whoa! Mary Turzillo!
But it's about dead people. Diva. Inert, but for steel eyes, she is a dish rag over broken china, a silk gown washed in a mud puddle, her hands walking sticks under rotted kid leather. They laugh at her image. She's an extinct flag hanging on a broken stick. She fruits with frightening clots of flesh gone wild, desiccated by chemo and leeches, her mind reined behind paralytic prisms. But she will rise. She owned the runways, Prada and Hermes aping her look in Aida. Her voice cracked Waterford vases, still in their foam Irish nests. She rode movie idols as if they were carousel tigers. She filibustered and decided elections. She bought asteroids and gave them to orphanages. Now she dreams of her beloved, whose power once moved continental plates, but he grew ancient, like a burned oak, like a country drained, condemned to be desert, now bone and old clothes under pastures where stone horses graze, 1,000 miles away, quiet as ice. She waits behind polished steel eyes, for she will rise. She will fly to his grave. She will lug the stone away, claw into the earth with her own jointed sticks, unearth his casket and kick it open with flamenco heels. She will lay her bleeding lips against his, and he will taste the smart of her blood. And he will claw through the coffin and dirt, and he will rise. His eyes will open and uncloud. He will see the sky and know that it's his, and he will rise. And they will rise. They will inhabit platonic bodies and ride destriers and fusion engines. They will harness the power of death. They will rise. They will cut down all that opposes them. They will grind the bones of their adversaries to season their bread, riding outward and outward toward some eclipse only the God of the sun can envision. They will laugh. They will love, they will rise, their substance transformed to ether. They will rise, they will wield Excalibur and Hruntig, Joyeuse and Tizona, laughing as demigods fall before them. When they die, the cosmos will burn.
Excellent, thank you. Dan, you got to follow that.
I know.
All right, I know. Come on up. It's all right, brother. I had to follow Dan Smith. Come on now. Don't make him any more nervous.
Breathe.
This is called My Last Alien. That's her. life-size holograph in her room. Lifelike, isn't it? Marvelous how Fidnep, the younger, captured her essence. Her compassion for all, her joy in every little thing, each one valued as much as my smiles, my delights. My ardor and gratitude were the same to her as a servant's servility, a cook's concoction, or the genius of our race. She never even learned the correct pronunciation of my 9,000-year-old family name. As your master knows, I do not bow and scrape for anyone. So orders were given. And now she goes about her daily, non-discriminating holographic life in her little chamber, to which I alone hold the key. You, sir, will please convey to your master my distaste for these upstart aliens, along with my desire for his daughter and an heir. Let us go down to my guests, sir. May I point out the statue of Krizlik on your left, created exclusively for me by Flidzik of Araref.
Thank you, Dan. Jeff Kosiba.
When you resign yourself to the unredeemable and give up on love, you're existentially waiting for death. I hope that when the black-veiled succubus greets me at the unexpected hour, she dances with me a waltz, as delicate breaths are stolen from my delicately blackened lungs, and bullet-riddled heart is attacked something massive, as it has so longed to feel. I hope the mistress of death opens a sinkhole of love beneath me and buckles my knees in true confessorial style. Lets me everlong fall into it. I am a one-way street, a dead end. I suppose everyone takes a wrong turn to get to me. You approached me after my poetry reading and asked me if all my poems were real. You said you could relate to everything I said, could relate to my pain. You then rolled up your pink sweater sleeves, showing me your wrists, and proved to me that you could. I've never met anyone I could see eye to eye with. Perhaps that's what made your appearance into my life so memorable. You had a mysterious grace about you. Now I realize why I could directly see into your eyes, and you into mine. You had wings. I never envisioned there were so many conjurers and prestidigitators among us. It appears everyone who comes into my life has at least in their repertoire one disappearing act. You could have fashioned the double lightning bolt on your neck to let me know what you were. Hawthorne was right. You should have been labeled. Hawking was right. You swallowed up everything that comes into your path that resembles love. You made it all disappear. Everything that resembled love. You, the color red. Everything. All gone. All gone.
Excellent. Minus 2 points for props. Good job. Nice. Magic. I like it. Excellent. Excellent. Thank you, Jeff. Head cold. So out, right. Got it. All right, Chris Franke. Woo!
I was thinking about sequestration when I came up with this. The elephant in the room believes that it is dealing with an ass. The turkeys playing chicken have the rest of us aghast. I saw this headline in the Plain Dealer about what Kasich wants to do with the taxes, lowering some income tax, raising some sales tax. So I came up with this. This is a haiku, by the way, or a non-haiku. As May labels, sometimes May lapels matter. Grab them, shake that fucker. Okay, there's been a Diane Kendick poem that I've been waiting for her to send me for a long time. So anyway, she finally broke down and sent me this poem. I was doing something, I think it was Ingenuity, and there was an occasion where they were paying some of us readers, and she on one of those occasions, on such an occasion, she read this poem about Daniel Thompson that I liked. It's called Taking Daniel Thompson into Lima Correctional. For years, he wanted to go to prison with me. Prison, I said to him, is not jail, thinking he'd be the last writer I'd ever take into prison. And at the end, during what inmates would call my short time, I decided he was the last writer I wanted to take into prison. I called and he came and could have been a chaplain, so piously he submitted to entry procedures. We made the half-mile walk to the cavernous shift room, and he read to a crowd of 80 or so. Though if you know him, you know he said, not read. He chanted and cooed, beginning with, those in power always want those in poverty to live on poetry. The room got quieter and hotter, and Daniel's voice got louder. The guards began to gather in the back, first a gray shirt, then several white shirts. How could there be this many white shirts left this late, I thought. Thought we'd be ousted for the passion he was raising in the place, until I noticed that the guards were applauding, that they loved Daniel's hymn to veterans in the marketplace, crude-toothed, blue open flies, eyes of salt, and humor surviving wars and rumors. And they nodded to his complaint about justice as a railroad. One took exception to Daniel's Dillinger poem and shouted, but he did shoot the deputy. In Lima, they know their Dillinger. I have to tell you that I never heard Daniel so loud and clear, despite his age and weariness. About 6 months before the first cancer diagnosis, all the reverberations of metal doors and concrete floors and walls, he gathered up everything he had on injustice and hurt, all those broken letters of the earth, love's new light he still held out for, and man, he sang them off. In that hard room, Daniel took us all into the purpose of his poetry, which, as another Ohioan said, is to break our hearts. Some men wept. Taking Daniel out of prison would have been harder, except he was tired, and even he did not want to sleep there. I drove, he rode shotgun, his right arm along the open window as he chuckled and repeated, but he did shoot the deputy on the long ride home, that exceptionally warm and starry autumn Friday night that Daniel took the prison.
Who is that? Diane Kending?
Diane Kennedy.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you. Red, you're up.
I love your sweater.
Oh, thank you. My grandmother bought it for me. I did want to let you guys know that on the same day as Azrael's event, but later in the evening, so you can actually do both. Okay.
Right on.
I'm having my first poetry feature in Cleveland. It's at the Touch Supper Club. It's actually going to be me, Jamel Snow, and a poet from Columbus named Mia. And there'll be 3 DJs and a lot of different types of music, and there's no cover charge. So I'd love to see you at 2710 Lorraine Avenue on March 29th at 10 p.m.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Commercials. They drone on and on about toys that shouldn't even be called toys because they're so high tech. Expensive elixirs that supposedly smooth out skin and undergarments that say they'll pull us in. All I'm sorry, I'm gonna start over if you don't mind.
Get it.
Do it.
Commercials drone on and on about toys that shouldn't even be called toys because they're so high tech. Expensive elixirs that supposedly smooth out skin and undergarments that say they'll pull us in, all in an effort to give us back those figures from way back when. But wait, there's more. How about our kids go outside and play? That's free.
Yes.
How about we drink more water to moisturize our skin? How about we walk past the fast food restaurants on our way to do a sit-up or 2 or 3? And yes, by the way, that does include me. But you know what we all say, ain't nobody got time for that. We too busy out here trying to charge up the next big thing, not worrying about that interest because they're gonna let us pay it till we die, and then they'll just roll it over to the next generation. The same generation we've been teaching to shop at Nordstrom's, not Macy's, and hell no, not TJ Maxx, not even realizing that it's all the same shit just hanging on different racks. All made by hardworking yet underpaid Asians and Mexicans. Hell, did you know that in Bangladesh the factory caught on fire and they locked the workers in, screaming that quota still must be met, even though there's people dying in other parts of the building. But really, what can we say? They were probably just getting ready for our Christmas season. You know, the day when the floors have to be covered with toys or the day is not thought of as a success. Have we stopped to contemplate that Christ only received 3 gifts?
Yeah.
What makes us believe that our children deserve more than this? How about commercials go on and on about giving out quality time as gifts, volunteering on a regular basis, stopping and noticing the look in a stranger's eye and saying, no matter what it is you're going through today, it's going to be okay. Just take a deep breath and keep on breathing. But wait on advertisers to figure out the error in their ways? I say, we better not hold our breath. Let's you and I stand up today and be the change we want to see. Thank you.
That's right.
March 29th, 10 o'clock, Touch Supper Club. Check out Red. Who is it? Mia from Columbus.
And Jamel Snow.
Jamel Smith. Excellent. So go to the Writing Night show in Lakewood. Then you're like halfway downtown. And then just go Touch Supper Club. Food's good there too. And then also check out the, so that's a Friday.
Too. They fun to dance with. Oh, you're not talking about that's touch too.
Different type of touch. You have to pay for that touch. This one's got no cover charge. What you want to do is you want to stay the night, and then they've got a really cool make your own Bloody Mary bar in the morning on Saturday. All right, yeah. Well, it's like 100. It's like a buffet of like additions. I read about it on the Play Dealer. It looks awesome. I've never actually been there, but it looks yummy, so you can have one for me too. Okay. What?
5 different
5 different mimosas? It's orange juice and champagne. How do you have 5?
Because it doesn't have to be orange juice.
Okay.
Come on, you know, it's like.
All right, you'll explain it to me later.
Teach you about drinking again?
No, you got me in trouble with my wife already. No, bad. No, that was not a good night. Alrighty.
Oh, yeah.
No, it wasn't. All right, we're gonna end that conversation, and we're gonna get the features back up. So we're going to start. We'll go in reverse order. Lacie Semenovich. There we go. I was going to say Smith. You're not a Smith. You're Semenovich. Come on up. Or a Clark, if you read the book cover. Come Lacie.
This is called freedom. He would carry his belongings if this were a real prison. Maybe keys, a cigarette lighter, the tie he wore to be sentenced. But here his books transmuted to dust and rat food, his pens dried in his pocket. He burned blank journal pages to light the dark walls, and the poems, all the poems were forgotten. If this prison were concrete and mortar, he would wear new clothes from pennies, but his soul is naked and thinks he may shit himself in public. Tonight, his guiding star is the sun. It will bring the next day, and the next, and the next, until he is filled with day and light enough to sleep through the nights. He follows his breath like the souls of a sunken pirate ship, inhaling and exhaling the north winds. He finds his feet with the courage of a man who has walked the coals of sacred earth. And this last one is called Goodbye Mountain. When his mother died, he gave his favorite stuffed bear to his 3-year-old cousin. His childhood ghost, like those of his woodsman grandfathers, tramped brittle leaves, climbed fallen trees deep into the mountains. Clay filled the crevices of his boots, sucked at his soles as though the earth was reclaiming its flesh. Blessed by the breath of the mountains kissed, mushrooms grew in his pockets, dimpled brown things he harvested for soup. Briar branded, wind damaged, men don't play with stuffed bears. Coal tattooed his fingers and forehead, lungs sponged night from the air. Fingers scraped with lava hardened the calluses and steel of his hands. When his father died, he loaded his saddlebags with t-shirts, stained jeans, and his mother's photo album. His gloves and hammer handles burned in the oil drum out back. Smoke signal, funeral pyre, carbon drunk, the trees wept into the wind. Thank you, guys.
And our other feature this evening, Leah Mueller.
All right. I have a short story in this particular chapbook put out by the lovely Mr. Burroughs of Crisis Chronicles Press. And I'm going to just read a short excerpt from my short story, which comprises about half the length of the chapbook, but I won't be reading the whole thing. It's called The Clown Chronicles. It was an afternoon of dejection following a long period of abject poverty that led to my decision to become a clown. I was so broke that I had given up having a checking account months beforehand. It had been 3 months since I'd paid my rent, and I had received a couple of eviction notices. While sitting at the Heartland Cafe, nursing a small plate of tofu, I noticed the following ad in the Chicago Reader. Easy job. Man or woman with cheery disposition and friendly personality needed to dress as clown and hand out leaflets on Michigan Avenue, advertising the grand opening of the fun new adult education place, the Education Zone. Wear own costume. must be prompt, professional, and cheerful. I pondered a possible new clown career. I felt fairly certain that I could fake a cheerful persona, but I realized that my wardrobe lacked standard clown accessories. I had a rather silly-looking pair of striped Guatemalan pants and a pair of red Converse high tops, but that summed up the absurdity of my wardrobe. Perhaps it would be okay if I wore a shirt that didn't match my pants. Maybe something in a plaid pattern. I wandered in a daze to the payphone and removed a quarter from the bottom of my purse, the sum total of my funds. The interview was mercifully brief. A man with a loud, nasal New York accent informed me that he was the owner of the Education Zone, which was set to have its grand opening in Chicago in less than a month. He sounded both harried and arrogant, a combination that never failed to irritate me. "Do you think you have what it takes to be a clown for the Education Zone?" he barked without a trace of irony. "Sure," I said meekly. I really needed the job. "Fine," he said. "Be here tomorrow at exactly 10 a.m. I'll see you then." He gave me the address and hung up. Well, things were looking up. I had some beans and rice in the cupboard, a carrot, half an onion, and a job as a clown. Hopefully, the pay would be weekly. It wasn't exactly the job that I had visualized for myself when I was a hotshot high school student with a weekly column in the town newspaper and my eye on a journalism career, but it would help to keep me from being homeless and starving, and that was an important start.
Yes.
Yeah. In the morning, I checked all of my pockets and the bottom of my purse repeatedly, but I was unable to locate coins for the subway. This meant that I would have to walk the entire 8 miles from my apartment in Rogers Park to the Gold Coast, where the Education Zone offices were located. I'd made such walks before out of necessity, ever since I had attempted to board the subway with a transfer that I'd found on the street, and the African-American fellow in the fare window said, "Where'd you find this goddamn transfer? In the street? Don't all the pretty white girls have money? Get the hell out of here." Chicago could be a very cold town. I started walking, cursing my stupidity. It was already 8:45. There was no way I was going to be there on time. I walked fast down Sheridan to Broadway, past the vapid Loyola students who didn't have a care in the world. "Look at them," one of my ex-boyfriends once said. "Not an ounce of rock and roll in any of them." Through the trash-strewn streets of Uptown, then trendy Newtown with its hipster bars, and Old Town, where I had been born 25 years beforehand. From there, it was only another 10 minutes to Rush Street, home of the Education Zone. Rush Street was the epicenter of everything I loathed about yuppie culture, and there was plenty to loathe about yuppie culture. Professional men sat in beer gardens, sun glinting on their Rolexes and their pints of expensive imported beer, staring at coiffed and manicured secretaries who wore men's power suits and carried briefcases. It was 1984, the year I had grown up believing would usher in an era of totalitarianism, the very height of the Reagan era. The Reagan era. Greed was more than good. It was essential. My problem was simple. I had plenty of arrogance and a huge sense of entitlement, but I was not greedy enough. I found the address, bolted up the stairs to the second floor. It was 10:15. I had managed to cover 8 miles in an hour and a half, a record for me. I decided to take this as a positive sign. I was a clown now. It was important to stay positive. My new boss stood at the top of the stairs, glaring down at me. A handsome but imposing man. His hair was perfectly feathered, and he wore an expensive navy blue 3-piece suit. "You're late!" he screamed at me. "Let's get one thing straight right off the bat. You must be on time every goddamn day, you understand?" This was an inauspicious meeting. There was no other way to interpret it. But I didn't have time for regrets. "I'm sorry," I said simply. He gestured at me to enter, and I wandered into a large room that was empty, except for several piles of class catalogs. loosely bound with plastic straps. Two young African-American men sat at a small table, staring into a mirror while trying somewhat ineptly to apply clown makeup. "There's a mirror," my new boss said, "and your two new coworkers, hurry up." He left the room. "Well," I said pleasantly, as soon as he was out of earshot, "he's somewhat of an asshole, isn't he?" Anyway, I could go on, but I'm going to stop here. And if you want to find out what goes on in the rest of the story, then you can buy a copy of Queen of Dorksville for a mere $7. So I want to thank everybody for having me here, and especially John.
Okay, what happens when you pour coffee and wine together? You're the problem.
Coffee and wine together? Know how that works. Red would like to know what happens when you mix caffeine and alcohol together.
Party!
Yeah, right, that's, yeah.
Bailey's.
You're right. Oh, there you go. All right, think about that. Yeah. What Leah failed to mention, because she doesn't want to guilt you, but I will. She came all the way from Washington area, from this little island in Puget Sound. And it was a one-way trip, unless you buy enough poetry books to get her back.
If we pay her even more, will she stay?
Oh, maybe. Oh, there it is.
Come home with me tonight.
Yeah, there you go. And what Lacie failed to mention is that she traveled all the way from a little town in Ohio, Parma. It was a hike. And she needs money to get home. That was a one-way trip, too, unless you buy poetry books. Once again, between the two of them, you got less than $20. You're walking home with now three, thanks to J.E. Stanley, chapbooks of poetry. This is an excellent deal. Please, please, please support the featured readers tonight. Support your fellow poets. Please support MugShotz. Thank MugShotz. They're not even here. All right. Support MugShotz. If they go knock on the door and support them, thank them the next time. We will be here next month. We will see you then. If you're at all interested, please friend me on Facebook so I can invite you to all the readings. Most of you I know are my friends on Facebook. If you're not my friend, please do so. And then we can get you invites to all the readings in the future. Please, once again, for the next 4 or 5 Fridays in a row, there is something happening poetry related. Every Friday night, sometimes twice in one night. Please, please, please go to the different poetry events around town. Support poetry in Cleveland. Are there any other announcements, concerns, comments? Sweet. Yes. Oh, yes. May 20th. Oh, Wednesday, May 20th at May Halls.
First annual Poetry Music Fest.
Yeah, first annual poetry music.
Big X.
Big X.
Big X.
Big X.
Huge. Huge.
X. ACT, not like the.
Right.
I mean,
Unless some people are off their meds.
Yeah, well.
Never been to my house. It can happen.
great, come early. I'm told they have great chicken sandwiches.
Great chicken sandwiches, great poetry, great music.
Good pretzels.
Good pretzels. Good vegan.
There you go.
And bowling!
And bowling.
And bowling!
Oh, wait a minute. I just want to take.
You wake up from your drunk and you can bowl if you like.
Yeah.
With a vegan taco. And what?
They're too expensive. The tacos are too expensive.
They're vegan,
But they're expensive.
but they're vegan. I want to know how this works. How do you do a vegan taco?
Just no meat or cheese.
First you grind the vegan up.
Everything tastes good with salsa.
With that, everybody drive safely. Let's end at the lesson. Have a good night.